Accountant is directed by Gavin O'Connor, written by Bill Dubuque, and stars Ben Affleck, Anna Kendrick, John Bernthal, Cynthia Addai-Robinson, J.K. Simmons, and John Lithgow. And The Accountant is about a man known as Christian Wolf, played by Ben Affleck, who works as an accountant for some very bad, powerful people, and who also happens to have autism. One day, though, some things go wrong and Christian finds himself being hunted. Now, I heard a lot of good things about this movie from YouTubers I really respect and admire going in, so I was excited, and the first trailer used the song Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead, which is an incredible song and a really easy way to sell me to watch your movie. Unfortunately, after watching this film, I just don't understand what all the fuss is about, because I just was not impressed. I didn't really enjoy The Accountant that much. You know, it's a movie that has no idea what it wants to be. For the most part, it's really flatly directed, but it does have a skilled and well-rounded cast. The best way I can summarize my thoughts about The Accountant is by saying that this probably would have been a lot better off as a TV show, because this movie really just wants to tell way too many stories at the same time with really hit-or-miss results. The parts that work best in this film involve Ben Affleck and Anna Kendrick. Ben Affleck really is the star of this entire movie, of course, and it's just such a great showcase for him because he turns in a really surprisingly good performance here. He has really subtle expressions and movements that instantly separate him in your mind from his portrayal of Bruce Wayne. You know, he really comes across as his own fully formed character here. And when the action happens, it's brutal, it's hard-hitting, it's really exciting, and the visuals in all the Ben Affleck parts really get the most creative among all the other visuals in the film, because, you know, they really try to show what it's like in his mind, in his world, when he has autism, and his minimalist lifestyle that comes along with that, his obsessive-compulsive habits. Christian Wolf really is just a really interesting, multi-layered character, although he is admittedly more of a superhero than a believable depiction of autism. Not because I don't think that people with autism can be badass, it's just that they didn't focus enough on his condition, so it really just kind of came across like a superhero movie. And where this movie falls apart is pretty much everywhere else. The biggest subplot in this movie involves Cynthia Addai-Robinson and J.K. Simmons, and her character is given like the most paper-thin of motivations ever. You know, they're just two people who are trying to figure out who Christian Wolf is, and it's a really unnecessary subplot because we as the audience already know who he is, so I don't know why they felt the need to show us all this procedural stuff when we already know the answers. And you know, it's their only reason for being in this movie is to spout very lengthy exposition about background information about Christian Wolf. Although again, I must admit that J.K. Simmons is fantastic in this role. It's really like an audition tape for his performance, I suppose, in the new Batman movie. Unfortunately, Cynthia Addai-Robinson has just nothing to do here. And then there's another subplot that involves John Bernthal's character that feels totally underwritten and is clearly only there for a certain twist that happens at the end of the movie that is not surprising at all and doesn't really help in any way. It's the kind of twist that would have been better if they introduced it earlier so we could see how that twist affects things now, but instead it's just like a cherry on top. But for me, the most annoying thing about The Accountant is its tendency to cut the flashbacks so often, and so many of these flashbacks just don't feel like they fit within the scenes they're in, because again, they're really long excerpts and they're really tedious, and again, these flashbacks are only here to serve as exposition. You know, these flashbacks all could have been removed and included as deleted scenes on the DVD, and it would have made perfect sense. I almost forgot there's also a subplot that has to do with Jeffrey Tambor that, again, I don't know why it's there because it doesn't add anything at all. Ultimately, all these little things just have nothing really particularly interesting or exciting to offer to the audience because they don't build a cohesive world. Compare it to something like John Wick, where you had all these crazy elements, but then you understood like the systems going on in this world. Here, it's just a lot of detail without any structure. This is a movie that takes itself way too seriously, even if most of what happens in the movie is inherently impossible. In the end, I thought The Accountant was not very remarkable, not very memorable at all. They're obviously trying to turn this material into franchise material, but they should merge it with John Wick while they're ahead. I'd like to see that. Alright, so those are my thoughts on The Accountant. If you guys have seen it, please tell me what you thought about it. And whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.